Paul says, brethren, if a man is overtaken in a trespass, you who are spiritual, restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness, considering yourself, lest you also be tempted. So Paul introduces something. It's not hypothetical. This is going to happen. This is going to be a reality. Within the church family, we all every now and then going to make a mess. We're going to trip up and we're going to fall. We're going to end up in a ditch. We're going to squander away something, lose something that was valuable to us, our own personal testimonies. So Paul says, here is the response. If someone is overtaken, and the idea here is they kind of slipped up. It may have not been premeditated. It may have not been planned. It may have not been purposeful indiscretion, but in the weakness of their own flesh, in the immaturity of my own mind, in the lack of savvy and sophistication of my own decision-making, I just messed up, Paul said. I just got overtaken, just got caught up in the whole situation. And I find myself in a fault, in a trespass, in a sin. And make no mistake about it, the word trespass in the Bible, it refers to sin. Trespass, there's a line drawn, there's a boundary line drawn, there's a sign that says no trespassing. And what do? You step over the line. As a matter of fact, the line becomes more enticing and more tempting when they put up the sign. As long as no sign is up, you don't even think about stepping over the line. But as soon as they put the sign up, all of a sudden, why'd they put that sign up? And why is it they don't want me to trespass and go over there into that building, on that porch, in that property? So all of a sudden now, curiosity is aroused, and the one thing you want to do is to step over the line. I had my grandchildren yesterday. I must be just a glutton for pain, you know. And sometimes I just forget that I don't have the energy that I used to have, but I think I do. And so my children were small. I would load them up in my old Volkswagen van. I would take them to Camden Park, and we'd be in there all day. We'd have a big time. And so I said, I can still do that. So I loaded my oldest 4 grandchildren up. Okay, so we head off. We got to pull up the cooler, man. So it's a major production. You got to have food. You got to have water. Still got people don't want to use the bathroom, so you got to have Pampers and wipes and all this business. So it takes you like an hour and a half to get ready to go with all these unnecessary supplies. And so we get down there, and my 2 oldest, you know, Kashana and Zane, well, they are experienced veterans at Camden Park. I mean, they know every ride. They know everything about the place. So all I got to do is tell them, let them loose. They meet me back here in 30 minutes. We got one spot. We meet back at the Scrambler every 30 minutes. They got it. No problem. But these last 2, whole different situation. Whole different situation. It's just a whole different type of situation. So we down there now. It's 80 or 90 degrees. Now, it ain't but 2 little water spots that you can even step in water. You see, I turned my head, I turned around, they down in the water. It wasn't but 2 little pots of water on the whole plantation down there. They found those 2. But you know what it's like on black asphalt. It's hot, it's dirty, and they're in the water. And I said, why don't y'all just go ahead and dive in the water? The only thing I said was, don't step in the water. I shouldn't have said nothing about the water. They wouldn't have even noticed the water. They wouldn't even have seen the water. They wouldn't have been attracted to the water. But when I said, don't step in the water, all of a sudden, all they could say in their head was, where's the water? Where's the water? They found the water. Well, they didn't make it a lot easier because it didn't matter then whether I changed their Pampers or not. They was already wet. Paul says if a man is overtaken, if a man falls in the water, even though he know he wasn't supposed to get in the water, now's not the time to lecture him about the dangers of the water. Somebody need to get a life preserver. Somebody need to get a rope, get him out of the water, then lecture him, then discipline him, then scold him, excoriate him for his ignorance, for his weakness, or whatever it is. But don't lecture him while he's still in the water because he might drown and not hear the lecture. Paul says we got to be faithful and we got to be loyal to each other. And we got to feel this sense of obligation to try to help each other even when we mess up. So if you're overtaken in a brother overtaking a trespass, you who are spiritual. So now he appeals to the person who says that they are spiritual. You are a spiritual giant. You are a prima donna. You know the Bible. You know the verses. You know the scriptures. You know that there's no temptation taken us, but such is common to man. God is faithful, will not allow us to be tempted above that which we are able, but with the temptation will provide a way of escape for us. You know all about 1 Corinthians 10, 12, and 13. So since you know it all, and since you are the spiritual one, Paul said you got to go and help the one who's not spiritual, who don't know, who hadn't figured it out. But then he says, restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness. Now, there are two things here. The word that is used for restore is the same word that would be used to describe the resetting of a bone that is broken. If you break a bone, if you break an arm or a leg, you just don't want the thing to be broke and be maimed and you be crippled. No, you go to a doctor and a doctor will reset it. Now, it might be painful. The resetting might be a painful process because a broken bone could have done some nerve damage or ligament damage or what have you. It could have had some tissue that it's torn, so it's going to be a painful thing. But the doctor, skilled physician, can reset that bone, put it back in place. And if you reset that bone and put it back in place, the bone now, it will restore itself. It will regenerate itself. But very often what it will require is a protective covering. We call it a cast. We call it a splint. That bone, that limb, it is still vulnerable. It is susceptible to further injury. It's not ready yet for full utility. It can't do what it did before it was broken until it's set, until it's protected, but with a cast or with a splint and given a time to heal. But if that occurs, it can heal, and it can be restored to usefulness. And so that's the way we got to look at this whole idea, why we got to be loyal to try to help each other, because if we need each other for the church to be strong, when one of us is broken and defeated and down, that means that we can't be as strong as we need to be as a body. So if we can help strengthen the one that is broken, that is injured, the one that has been temporarily out of service, and get it back, we get back the usefulness of that person. Are you following me? You know the story of the prodigal son, that's what it's all about. The story of the prodigal son, which is really the story of the loving father, you got one son who's self-righteous, he stays at home. One son that is rebellious, he leaves home. But when he leaves home, it hurts the family. Because the family in an agrarian agricultural society, it can't produce as much, it can't be as effective, it can't be as productive when one of the main members are gone. So one of the reasons the father threw a party when the boy came back, yes, he was glad to see his boy who was dead and now he was alive, but now the family can be all that the family was intended to be. We can reach our potential as a family because the wayward one who has squandered away a bunch of resources, he's now back, and he brings his skills back, and he brings his experience back, and then he brings back the insight he's learned from in the far country back so he can be a better worker than he was when he left. And that's what the father said, no, I don't need you just to come back as a servant. I'm going to restore you. You're my son. I'm going to put you back in the place that you were in before, because now you can be a better son and a better service to the family. That's what Paul is talking about. And that comes along with loyalty, a sense that we are connected, we are bound together, that we have a shared destiny together, and that we can reach it together by the grace of God. Well, a few more thoughts and I'll be through. Paul said, restore such a one, and you do it in a spirit of gentleness, considering yourself lest you also be tempted. If you return to Matthew chapter 7, you'd see that Paul is relating the same theme that Jesus related in a sense. And in Matthew 7, verse 1, he says, judge not that you be not judged, for with what judgment you judge, you will be judged. And with the same measure you use, it will be measured back to you. And why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but do not consider the plank in your own eye? It's the same idea, all right? So Jesus is saying we shouldn't judge people that fall. We shouldn't be in judgment of people. Now, we don't condone their actions, and we don't give them a trophy, and we don't celebrate their failure. But at the same time, we don't stand in judgment of them because we know that we could be in the same predicament if we're not careful. So he says, you're looking at the speck of dust, the little piece of dust.